All right, today we're going to start to talk about the final paper, the school analysis paper, where you're going to take a school improvement plan and any details you can find out about the school and examine your school through the 5 lenses of the project. So we're going to focus on the first lens, and today we're going to practice looking at school mission statements and starting to kind of analyze them to detect what the school purpose is. So let me walk you through how to do that, and then after we're done with this, what I'd like you to do in the discussion forum that's below is to take the mission statement of the school that you've chosen for your school improvement plan, or for your school analysis project, and then you're going to practice what we've done here and analyze that plan in terms of detecting a school purpose that you see. So let me show you how to do that. So the first thing to think about is, the full project looks like this. There's 5 different lenses through which you'll be analyzing the schools that you choose for your school analysis project. The first is school purpose. That's the one we're going to talk about today. We're going to look at the mission statement of the school and any other documentation we can to see if we can discern a school purpose. Then there's curriculum instruction. We're going to see if we can figure out what the curriculum looks like, what their school looks like. Then culture and socialization, equity and equality, and then lastly, just comments and suggestions based on what you found out about your school. But today we're going to talk about school purpose. So let's look at what we're doing, and this is what it says in the project details. Here's what I want you to do. Using information from this class, I want you to examine what the school's stated purpose is. So you should really rely heavily on David Labaree's discussion of the purpose of schooling throughout history. So we're going to look at school mission statements to see if we can identify hints of democratic equality, social efficiency, and social mobility. Because if Labaree is correct, most schools try to do all 3 of these, or at least more than one of them. So when a school advertises its mission statement, which is really an advertisement for the school, it's going to talk about, here's what we do at this school. We prepare your kids for jobs, or we prepare your kids for their place in the economy, or we prepare your kids to be good citizens. And usually they'll mention that they're trying to kind of do all 3. So why don't we look at some mission statements so that you can get an idea for what you're going to do on your own for this class period. So this first mission statement is from Carrolltown Elementary School. This is in Eldersburg, Maryland. This is where I went to elementary school. So this is an example of a mission statement that's fairly broad. It doesn't really, it's not obvious that it really refers to any of these 3 directly, but we can probably detect some hints of things. So let's read it. The active engagement of the learner within a risk-taking environment allows a student to accept responsibility for his or her learning. Okay, I'm going to stop there, because even though it doesn't directly say democratic equality, usually when I hear accept responsibility for, what they're saying is we're going to create the kind of person who will accept responsibility for, their own affairs, for their own learning. And that kind of gives me a sense of like a democratic equality thing, because it seems kind of like a citizenship kind of trait to accept responsibility for. Although I guess you could also say that it's an economic trait to accept responsibility for, let's say, your role as a worker. I'm going to say that that sounds a little bit to me like a hint of democratic equality. So let's continue. Through constructive, meaningful experience, discovery activities, and authentic real-life problem solving. I'm going to stop there, because authentic real-life problem solving, usually when I hear that, it's usually in the context of, problems that are real to prepare your children for the economy, like real-life problems that would exist, that would in the kind of the world of work or something like that. So this mission statement doesn't really say anything directly about any of these 3 purposes, but if I were analyzing this mission statement, I would think authentic real-life problem solving is kind of supposed to hint at, we're going to give your child real-life practice so that they will be prepared for like the economy when they grow older. But often mission statements for elementary schools will be a little bit vague. And I think the reason is because no elementary school wants to say, hey, we're going to prepare your 6-year-old for a job, or we're going to prepare your 6-year-old to be a really good citizen. Because it's really too early as a 6-year-old to prepare your 6-year-old for anything specific. Elementary schools just try to instill the basics, and then, those specific things kind of come later. So even if they want to prepare your kids for the economy, they're probably not going to come out and say, we're trying to prepare your kids for jobs in the 21st century economy. Okay, so here is the mission statement for Sandy Mount Elementary, and you'll notice that this one is more specific. So this is not the mission statement from their website, but from the school improvement plan. And you'll notice that the school improvement plan's statement of objectives for this school is way more specific than Carrolltown's mission statement, where they didn't really want to say too much about what they were doing specifically. So right off the bat, look at this first example at the top. So Sandy Mount Elementary and Carroll County Public Schools have as their goal to prepare globally competitive students. This is a really big catchphrase, and it really refers to economics. It refers to usually social mobility. When you think about global competitive students, you're competitive in a marketplace, you're thinking about social mobility. We want each student to be as competitive as possible in the global economy, so competing for jobs, things like that. And also the third prong underneath that, to enhance programs to ensure career readiness for all students. So again, the focus is definitely on economics, and it really sounds to me more like social mobility. So when I hear enhanced programs to ensure career readiness, I guess you could make a case for social cohesion, because maybe the school wants to steer you to where you will provide the most value, but it really sounds like we want all students to be prepared so they can pick their own professions and be competitive, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of sounds like social mobility. And then the second spot where it says meet each student's instructional needs. There's some things under here that really sound almost like part of democratic equality. So the first prong here, close the achievement gap between highest achieving and most struggling students. If you recall in Labaree's work, he talks about democratic equality. Well, one of the keys to that is ensuring equal access to all students and an equal quality education for all students. And it sounds like that's exactly what they're signaling here, is that they want to make sure that their schools not only compare people to be competitive, but also give everyone kind of a fair shot and give everyone an equal education. And so these are two of the prongs that kind of jump out at me in terms of social mobility with the first one, and democratic equality a bit for that second one. Then again, I should also note that the second to last prong under that meet each student's instructional needs area, implement a gifted and talented program. So if you're really thinking about this mission statement, I would ask yourself whether or not implementing a gifted and talented program is really compatible with closing the achievement gap. Because in some ways, gifted and talented implies we're going to create this section of the school that's really for students who we think are really bright, and we want to give the most opportunities to these students. That's kind of a component maybe of social mobility, because you're giving some students a leg up. These are the students we think are really great students, and we want to give them the most possible gains we could. You could even say that's social cohesion, because these are the students the school thinks should go into the quote-unquote higher professions, because they might provide the most value. But is that really compatible with closing the achievement gap? Because closing the achievement gap means we want to treat all students kind of equally. We don't want to give some better than and some worse than. So that would be an interesting thing to talk about in your first section. If you notice incompatibilities like that, is this thing the school is doing really compatible with this other thing the school is doing? Okay, so now let's go on to Century High School. This is where I had my first teaching job and where I also went to high school. So this mission statement is pretty straightforward in terms of the goals. So every individual at CHS is committed to creating a safe, challenging yet supportive learning community. Unique partnerships, a technologically integrated learning environment, and high-quality programs will, quote, link learning to future careers. Wow, okay, so that's pretty blatant, that we are making sure that you are educated for your future careers. And it says, we'll link learning to future careers, and that gives the impression, at least to me, that they really want students to be kind of choosing their own careers. So not only we want to prepare you for the economy, but we want you to link your learning to kind of a future career that you want. So I would say probably social mobility for that one, if it were me. Students will emerge as dynamic, self-directed learners, responsible citizens. Oh, okay, so that's pretty obvious. That's democratic equality, because whenever you hear citizens, you should probably think democratic equality, and active participants in a rapidly changing world. Okay, so that's a little bit more ambiguous. Active participants in a rapidly changing world. It depends on what you think they have in mind. Do you think they have in mind the world of economics and commerce and business? Or do you think maybe the world of kind of just the world in a citizenship sense. So I don't know, that could probably go under either. It's fairly vaguely worded, but prepare students to be active participants in a rapidly changing world sounds to me like, either it could be economics or it could be preparing you to be citizens in an actively changing world. And last but not least, so that you get the hang of it, this is Century High School. This is where I had my second teaching job. I'm sorry, Newtown High School. So the mission of Newtown High School is to prepare students for, quote, their role as productive and marketable citizens. Wow. Okay, so that hits everything all at once. Their role as productive and marketable citizens. Well, marketable kind of implies economics, the market, right? Who are you marketing to? Probably future employers. So it sounds to me like that's kind of social mobility. But it also says marketable citizens. So it sounds like they're kind of straddling the fence there. So marketable refers usually to economics. You're marketing yourself towards employers. But citizens also means we also want you to be citizens too. So you're not just, marketing yourself, but you're still citizens while you're doing it. Future leaders. Well, that's ambiguous. It probably depends on what you think the school means by that. Do they mean future economic leaders? Do they mean future leaders in terms of the government, or future leaders in terms of community leaders? That would be more in line with democratic equality, etc. So we commit to a rigorous learning environment that is safe and supportive. This will ensure that all students develop their individual potential. Wow, so here the stress is clearly on your individual potential, your potential that is unique to you as an individual. Well, it's probably not democratic equality, because you're really focusing on schooling as an individual good. We want schools to help your individual potential. So I would say that sounds more like social mobility to me, because the focus is really on helping you find your individual potential, and school being consumed as sort of a private good rather than a public good. So those are 4 mission statements, and those are the kind of, that's the way I would want you to go about analyzing the mission statement. So when you're in the discussion forum and you take your own mission statement and you start to analyze it like we did here, here's what I want you to do. I want you to look for the hints of any of those 3, democratic equality, social mobility, or social cohesion. And if you're unsure about something, like we were with, let's say, Newtown's future leaders, we don't know what they have in mind, say so in your discussion forum. Say, okay, I think they probably mean social mobility, but maybe they might mean democratic equality. What do you all think? Is that too ambiguous to call? Do you think it's one or the other, etc.? So do as best you can, trying to figure out what elements you can detect. And you might detect all 3, you might detect only 1, you might detect 2. So analyze your mission statement, and then what I'd like you to do is respond to 2 other students' analysis and see if you agree with their analysis. And if you don't, say so. And if they pose questions about what does future leaders mean, or whatever their question is, answer their question as best you can. So basically you're looking at their analysis through your own eyes and seeing if it makes sense to you, and giving them feedback on, yeah, I agree with your analysis, or no, I'm not sure I quite agree, and here's why, or here's my take on their mission statement, which is different than yours. So hopefully that helps you out. Now take your own mission statements and go into the forum and start to kind of practice analyzing your mission statement.